I just sold my patent for $20 million. At the celebration, I watched my wife drop something into my champagne from a brown vial. She didn't know I saw. When she walked away, I gave my glass to her mother. You deserve this more than anyone, I said. 30 seconds after the toast, she hit the floor. I'm not saying I'm the kind of guy who throws himself a retirement party at 42, like some kind of tech bro messiah who just discovered passive income, but here we are. My living room is packed with people who wouldn't have returned my calls 6 months ago, and now they're all suddenly my biggest fans because I just sold my water purification micromembrane patent for $20 million. Cash plus royalties that'll keep rolling in like I'm collecting rent on oxygen itself. The deal closed last Tuesday. By Wednesday, my phone had more congratulatory texts than a quarterback who just won the Super Bowl. And exactly zero of these people helped me when I was eating ramen in my garage lab at 2 in the morning trying to figure out why my prototype kept clogging like a gas station toilet. But whatever. I'm not bitter. I'm rich now. So, I'm allowed to be magnanimous and pretend I don't remember who called my project Marcus's expensive hobby, or who suggested I get a real job when I was 3 years deep into development. Brittany, my wife, insisted we do this whole thing at the house with a caterer, a bartender who makes cocktails with names like the Innovator and Silicon Sip and enough artisanal cheese to bankrupt a small European nation. She said people expected me to cry, to give some emotional speech about the journey, about believing in myself when nobody else did. Honestly, I just expected cocktails and maybe some light jazz in the background while I nodded politely at people's fake enthusiasm. We got neither crying nor jazz, but we did get something way more interesting than either of those things. And that's why I'm currently standing in my kitchen holding a champagne flute and questioning every life decision that led me to marry someone who apparently moonlights as an amateur poisoner. It happens right before the big toast. Everyone's gathered in the living room and Brittany's doing her thing where she plays hostess like she's auditioning for a reality show about wealthy wives who lunch. She's got her hair done, nails done, wearing this dress that probably costs more than my first car, and she's working the room like a politician at a fundraiser. I'm over by the bar and I reach for my glass. The one with the tiny chip on the rim that I've been using for years because it's comfortable and familiar, and I know for a fact I won't accidentally hand it to a guest because nobody wants to drink from chipped glass here except apparently me. It's like my security blanket except it holds alcohol, and I'm a grown man. So let's call it what it is. A habit. That's when I see it. Brittany leans in close to my glass, looks around like she's checking for security cameras at a bank she's about to rob, and pulls out this little brown vial from her clutch. Not a perfume vial. Not essential oils. This thing looks like it came from a Victorian apothecary or maybe from some sketchy website that also sells healing crystals and instructions on how to fake your own death. She squeezes a few drops into my champagne, swirls it with her finger, which is gross, unsanitary, and also literally attempted murder, and then places the glass back on the bar like she just garnished it with a lemon twist instead of whatever the hell was in that dropper bottle. Now, I'm not a paranoid person by nature. I don't think the government is tracking me through my dental fillings, and I don't believe that birds are drones, or whatever conspiracy theory is trending on Twitter this week. But when your wife of 8 years casually seasons your drink like she's adding hot sauce to tacos, that's not an act of love. That's not oops, I thought that was simple syrup. That's premeditated something. And that something rhymes with homicide and probably comes with a 25 to life sentence if you get caught. Rule number 1 in the handbook of how not to get murdered by someone you share a mortgage with is this. When they start accessorizing your beverages without your knowledge, it's time to pay attention. I don't say anything. This is critical. I don't gasp. I don't point. I don't yell. What the hell was that, Brittany? Like we're in some daytime soap opera. I just clock it. File it away in the part of my brain that usually remembers passwords and grudges. And I keep smiling. I grab a napkin. I pretend to wipe my mouth. I act like I'm the same oblivious Marcus who doesn't notice when his wife rearranges the living room furniture or when she buys another purse that costs more than some people's monthly rent. The toast is starting. Everyone's gathering. Brittany's mom, Lorraine, is front and center. Of course, because Lorraine has never met a spotlight she didn't want to stand directly under while talking about how we finally made it. Like she was in the lab with me at 3 in the morning troubleshooting membrane polymers instead of at the spa getting her 4th facial of the month. Lorraine's holding her own champagne flute, and she's doing that thing where she's already tearing up even though nothing emotional has happened yet. Like she's method acting for an audience that doesn't exist. She's wearing heels so high, I'm surprised she doesn't have a nosebleed. And she's clutching her designer handbag like it contains the nuclear codes. People are saying things. Congrats on the exit, Marcus. You deserve this, man. Always knew you'd make it. Lies. All lies, but I smile and nod, because that's what you do at parties when you're rich and people want to be near you. Now Tyler, my 14-year-old son, is standing off to the side, looking vaguely uncomfortable in the button-down shirt Brittany forced him into, and he's got his phone out, probably texting his friends about how lame adult parties are. Kids, not wrong. That's when I make my move. Casual, smooth, like I've been planning it my whole life. I walk over to Lorraine, and I say loud enough for people nearby to hear. Lorraine, you deserve this more than anyone. And honestly, in a cosmic, karmic, ironic sense, that statement is true. If anyone deserves to drink from the poison chalice of their own daughter's greed and desperation, it's the woman who raised said daughter to believe that other people's money is community property. I hand her my glass, the chipped one, the one with the mystery drops. She looks confused for half a second, probably wondering why I'm giving her my specific glass instead of just grabbing her a fresh one. But then her face does this thing, where she decides it's a gesture of affection or respect, and she takes it. She actually thanks me. Oh, Marcus, you're so sweet, she says like I just gave her flowers instead of swapping out what is very likely a lethal dose of something that doesn't belong in champagne. We all raise our glasses. Someone, I think it's Brittany's cousin Derek, starts a speech about innovation and the American dream and other buzzwords that sound like they came from a LinkedIn motivational post. Everyone's smiling. Brittany's smiling. I'm smiling. Lorraine's smiling. We all drink. Well, most of us drink. I take a tiny sip from Lorraine's glass, which tastes like normal champagne. Slightly too sweet. Definitely overpriced, but not murderous. Lorraine, on the other hand, takes a big gulp from mine because Lorraine doesn't do anything subtly, including consume beverages or spend money she doesn't have. 30 seconds. That's how long it takes. She's mid-laugh at something Derek said, and then her face changes. It's not subtle. It's not like, oh, I feel a little dizzy. It's like someone unplugged her from the wall. Her eyes go wide, her hand goes to her throat, and she makes this sound, this awful choking gasp, and then her knees just give out. She hits my marble floor so hard I hear the impact over the music, and her champagne flute goes flying and shatters against the fireplace like we're in a movie where everything happens in dramatic slow motion. Except this is real time and it's happening in my living room in front of 40 people. Screaming, immediate screaming. Someone yells, "Call 911." Someone else yells, "Is she choking?" Brittany rushes over doing this full-on performance of shock and horror that would win her an Oscar if the Academy had a category for Best Actress in a failed murder plot. She's on her knees next to her mom, crying, shaking her, yelling, "Mom, Mom," like she didn't just try to kill someone else entirely. About 90 seconds ago, Tyler's frozen by the couch, his phone still in his hand, his face pale. People are pulling out their phones. Someone's already calling 911. Derek's trying to do CPR, even though Lorraine's still breathing, just unconscious and twitching slightly, which is somehow worse than not moving at all. And me? I'm standing there still holding Lorraine's champagne flute, the safe one, watching this whole scene unfold like I'm a spectator at a sport I don't understand. I'm calm, too calm, probably. Someone might notice that I'm not panicking, but everyone's too focused on the woman convulsing on my floor to psychoanalyze my reaction time. Internally, I'm thinking one very clear thought. So, we're doing attempted murder before dessert. Cool. This is where we're at. This is the timeline we're in. My wife just tried to poison me at my own retirement party, and her mom drank it instead. And now there are paramedics on the way, and probably police, and definitely a lot of questions that I'm going to have to answer while pretending I have no idea what just happened. The paramedics show up fast. We're in a good neighborhood, which means emergency response times are excellent because property values demand it. They load Lorraine onto a stretcher while Brittany rides with her in the ambulance, still doing the devastated daughter routine. People are whispering. Did she have a stroke? Was it the shrimp? I heard she has a heart condition. Nobody's saying poison champagne because nobody saw what I saw, and I'm not about to announce it in front of 40 witnesses, while I'm still processing the fact that my wife is apparently trying to cash in on my death before I've even had time to update my will. I offer to drive to the hospital. I'm the concerned son-in-law. I'm the guy who just made $20 million and definitely has good insurance. Everyone nods approvingly. Tyler comes with me, quiet in the passenger seat, and I can feel him looking at me like he's trying to figure out what I'm thinking. Smart kid takes after me. I don't say anything during the drive. I'm building a case in my head. Evidence, and timeline, and motive. Because here's what I know for absolute certain. Yelling gets you drama. Crying gets you sympathy. But paperwork, documentation, evidence. that gets you justice, that gets you consequences, that gets people prison sentences they can't cry their way out of. And right now, sitting in my car, driving to the hospital where my mother-in-law is being treated for poisoning that was meant for me, I decide something simple and clear. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to confront. I'm going to smile and document and build a case so airtight that when this all comes out, and it will come out, nobody will be able to say I overreacted or misunderstood or imagined things. They'll just see facts, cold, hard, legally admissible facts, because I didn't survive 42 years and build a multi-million-dollar patent by being stupid or impulsive. I survived by being smarter than the people trying to take advantage of me. And Brittany just made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought I wouldn't notice. She thought I'd drink from that glass and collapse, and everyone would call it a heart attack or a stroke or bad luck. She thought wrong. And now I'm going to make sure she knows exactly how wrong she was. One documented piece of evidence at a time. Riverside General Hospital smells exactly like every hospital I've ever been in, which is to say it smells like industrial-strength bleach, mixed with regret and the broken dreams of people who thought their insurance would actually cover things. The fluorescent lights are doing that flicker thing that makes everyone look either dead or about to be dead. And there's a TV in the corner playing the news on mute because apparently watching silent coverage of traffic accidents is supposed to be calming when you're waiting to find out if your mother-in-law is going to survive drinking the poison that was meant for you. The ER waiting room is packed with the usual cast of characters. A guy holding a bag of ice to his face, a kid with a clearly broken arm trying not to cry, a woman coughing like she's auditioning for a tuberculosis awareness campaign, and us, the well-dressed family of a poisoning victim, looking like we just came from a cocktail party because we literally just came from a cocktail party. Brittany is pacing back and forth, like she's training for a walkathon sponsored by guilt and bad decisions. She's got her phone out, texting people updates that I can see from where I'm sitting because she's not even trying to hide the screen. Mom collapsed at the party. Don't know what happened. Pray for us. She's building her narrative in real time, crafting the story of the devoted daughter whose mother mysteriously fell at a celebration. And she's doing it with the dedication of someone who knows they're going to need an alibi that holds up under scrutiny. Every few minutes, she dabs at her eyes with a tissue, even though I haven't seen actual tears yet. It's like watching someone perform grief as a one-woman show. And honestly, the acting is decent, but not great. She keeps repeating the same phrases. Oh my God, I just don't know what happened. She says it to the nurse at intake. She says it to the doctor who comes out to give us updates. She says it to the random lady in the waiting room who made the mistake of asking if everything's okay 5 times. I count when someone repeats themselves that much. It's not shock. It's not processing trauma. It's rehearsal. It's making sure the story stays consistent because they know inconsistency is how you get caught. Tyler is sitting next to me, quiet, his phone in his hands but the screen dark. He's not texting. He's not playing games. He's just sitting there watching his stepmom pace and perform and then watching me watch her. And I can see the wheels turning in his head. Kid's 14, but he's not stupid. He sees what I see. He just doesn't have the language for it yet. Or maybe he does. And he's just smart enough not to say it out loud in a hospital waiting room where anyone could be listening. I make a mental note. Talk to Tyler later. Make sure he knows what he saw. Make sure he knows it's okay to trust his instincts when something feels wrong. File that under important parenting moments that shouldn't have to happen because your spouse shouldn't be trying to murder you. A doctor comes out after about 40 minutes. She's young, maybe early 30s, wearing scrubs that have seen better days, and an expression that says she's already done 12 hours of a 14-hour shift and would very much like to go home and drink wine in the bathtub. She looks at her clipboard, then at us. Family of Lorraine Hale? Brittany rushes over like she's been shot out of a cannon. Yes, that's my mother. Is she okay? What happened? The doctor does that thing doctors do where they choose their words carefully because they know anything they say might end up in a lawsuit. Your mother is stable. We've started treatment and she's responding. We're still running tests, but preliminary results suggest possible toxic alkaloid ingestion. She pauses, watching our faces. I keep mine neutral. Interested, but not surprised. Concerned son-in-law mode activated. Brittany's face does this microscopic flicker just for a second where I see panic before she smooths it back into relief. Toxic what? She asks. And her voice has this edge to it that's trying to sound confused, but lands somewhere closer to defensive. Alkaloid, the doctor repeats. It's a type of compound found in certain plants. Definitely not food poisoning, which was our first thought given the party setting. This was something more specific. We're running a full toxicology panel to identify exactly what we're dealing with, but the reaction time and symptoms are consistent with something like aconitine or a similar neurotoxin. She looks at all of us. Did your mother consume anything unusual? Any herbal supplements, teas, something from a non-commercial source? Brittany shakes her head vigorously. No, nothing. She just had champagne. That's it. She's talking too fast. People who are innocent don't talk that fast when answering simple questions. People who are innocent take a second to think, to consider, to make sure they're being accurate. People who are guilty already have their answer ready because they've been rehearsing it since the moment things went wrong. I step in, voice calm, measured like I'm simply trying to be helpful. She only took one sip of the champagne. Doctor, maybe two. Super fast reaction, right? Like less than a minute. The doctor nods slowly. Yes, that's consistent with acute poisoning. From a concentrated source. If it was ingested, it would have been in whatever she drank most recently. I let that sit there. I don't add anything. I just nod like I'm processing information. Brittany, though, Brittany freezes for half a beat, just half a second where her entire body goes rigid and her eyes lock onto me like she's trying to read my mind through my skull. Then she recovers. Champagne? You think it was the champagne? That's crazy. Everyone was drinking champagne. Nobody else got sick. Her voice has gone up half an octave. Defensive. Yeah, I say, and I smile at her. Just a small smile. Friendly, supportive husband smile. Crazy. The doctor says Lorraine is being moved to a room and will be staying overnight for observation. They want to monitor her cardiac function and neurological responses. Make sure there's no lasting damage. Complete the full toxicology report. Standard procedure for poisoning cases, she says. And I don't miss the way she says, poisoning cases like this is now officially a category of incident and not just a random medical emergency. Brittany does her dramatic relief performance, hand to chest, exhale, thank God, the whole production, and asks if she can see her mother. The doctor says yes, but only for a few minutes because Lorraine needs rest. Brittany rushes off down the hallway following a nurse, and I'm left standing there with Tyler and the young doctor who looks at me with an expression I can't quite read. You're her son-in-law? She asks. I nod. And you were at the party? Another nod. Did you notice anything unusual? Anyone who might have had access to the drinks? It's a careful question. She's fishing. I can tell this doctor has seen enough weird stuff in the ER to know that accidents at family parties sometimes aren't accidents. Nothing I can think of, I say. But I'll definitely give it some thought. If I remember anything, who should I talk to? She hands me a card. Not her card. A card for hospital security and a number for the police non-emergency line just in case. She says with this type of poisoning, we're required to file a report. Someone from the police department might want to ask some follow-up questions. I take the card. I thank her. I act like this is all routine and expected, and not at all the beginning of a criminal investigation into my wife's attempt to widow herself before she hits 40. Tyler and I sit back down in the waiting room. He's staring at his shoes. I'm staring at the muted TV, where a weatherman is pointing at a map of rain clouds. Finally, Tyler speaks, quiet enough that only I can hear. Dad, that was weird, right? The thing she said about the champagne. I look at him. Really look at him. My kid, smart, observant, probably going to need therapy after this whole thing is over, but at least he's paying attention. Yeah, buddy. That was weird. He nods slowly. Are you okay? He asks. And the fact that he's asking me, the adult, the parent, the person who's supposed to have everything under control, if I'm okay, tells me exactly how not okay this whole situation feels to him. I'm fine, I tell him, which is a lie, but also the only answer I can give right now. But I need you to do me a favor. I need you to remember everything you saw tonight. Everything. Don't talk about it with Brittany or Lorraine or anyone except me. Can you do that? He looks at me for a long moment, and I see the exact second where he stops being a kid and starts being a witness. Yeah. He says, I can do that. Brittany comes back 20 minutes later. Her mascara is smudged now. Actually smudged. Which means she's been doing some real crying or at least some aggressive eye rubbing to make it look like she's been doing real crying. She's awake, Brittany says. She's confused, but she's awake. She doesn't remember what happened. Convenient, I think. Out loud, I say, that's good that she's awake. I mean, the memory thing will probably come back. Brittany sits down next to me, and here's the thing that's absolutely wild. She puts her hand on my knee like a comfort gesture, like we're a team, like she wasn't trying to kill me 4 hours ago. I'm so glad you're here, she says, and her voice is soft, tired, vulnerable, Oscar-worthy, truly. I don't know what I'd do without you. And that's when it clicks into place for me. Really clicks in a way that's crystal clear and cold as ice. This woman sitting next to me, touching my knee, looking at me with those big concerned eyes, she's not relieved that her mother survived. She's assessing. She's watching me. She's trying to figure out if I'm dizzy, if I'm showing symptoms, if maybe I drank from that glass after all and the poison just hasn't kicked in yet. She keeps glancing at my hands to see if they're shaking. She's studying my face for signs of distress. She's waiting for me to collapse because, in her mind, in her plan, I was supposed to be the one on that stretcher. I was supposed to be the one in the hospital bed with the IV and the heart monitor and the toxicology report. And now she's sitting here recalculating, trying to figure out what went wrong, trying to decide if she needs to try again or if this failed attempt means she needs to pivot to plan B. I squeeze her hand. Supportive husband. We'll get through this, I tell her. Together. She smiles at me, relieved. And in that smile, I see everything I need to know. She thinks she's safe. She thinks I don't know. She thinks she still has time to fix this, to try again, to find another way to turn my $20 million into her $20 million. What she doesn't know, what she can't know yet, is that the temperature in my chest has changed. It's gone from shock to surgical, from reactive to strategic, from I can't believe this is happening to I'm going to document every single move you make from now until the day they read your charges in court. We drive home an hour later. Tyler falls asleep in the back seat. Brittany's quiet in the passenger seat, staring out the window. I'm driving, hands steady on the wheel, mind racing through everything I need to do. First thing tomorrow, lawyer. Second thing, find out exactly what was in that vial. Third thing, figure out how deep this goes, because people don't just randomly decide to poison their spouses. There's always a reason. There's always money. And that's when I start doing the math in my head. Brittany's boutique, that's bleeding money. Lorraine's multiple mortgages. The designer lifestyle that requires 6 figures minimum just to maintain. And I realized something that should have been obvious from the start. My wife didn't try to kill me because she hates me. She tried to kill me because she needs me dead. Because dead husbands come with life insurance, and marital assets, and sympathy, and social capital, and no prenup enforcement. Dead husbands are profitable. Living husbands with $20 million and a valid prenuptial agreement. Not so much. This wasn't rage. This wasn't passion. This was accounting. This was a spreadsheet with my name in the liability column and her name in the beneficiary row. And now that I see it, I can't unsee it. Now that I know, I can't unknow it. Now that I understand exactly what I'm dealing with, I can plan accordingly because if there's one thing I'm good at, it's solving problems. And Brittany just became a problem that needs solving. We get home around midnight, and the house still smells like the party. Leftover catering, expensive candles, and the faint chemical tang of whatever cleaning product the crew used to mop up my mother-in-law's collapse site, which is a sentence I never thought I'd have to construct. But here we are. Brittany goes straight upstairs without saying goodnight, which is fine, because I'm not exactly in the mood for pillow talk with someone who recently tried to poison me. Tyler mumbles something about being tired and heads to his room. And I'm left standing in my kitchen surrounded by the aftermath of what was supposed to be a celebration and turned into a crime scene that nobody except me seems to recognize as a crime scene. I go to my office, close the door, lock it, new habit as of tonight, and pull out a bottle of bourbon from the cabinet behind my desk. It's the good stuff, the kind I save for actual celebrations or exceptionally bad days. And I'm pretty sure my wife tried to murder me with botanical poison at my retirement party qualifies as an exceptionally bad day. But here's the thing. I don't just open it and pour. I check the seal first. I examine the cap. I hold it up to the light and look for anything that seems off. Any sign that someone's tampered with it, because apparently this is my life now. I'm a 42-year-old man who just made $20 million, and I'm inspecting my own bourbon like I'm a detective in a noir film. Except the noir film is my actual life, and the femme fatale is sleeping upstairs in my bed. I open it in front of my desk camera. Yeah, I have a camera in my office. Doesn't everyone? Because if I'm going to drink something, I want video evidence that I opened a sealed bottle myself and nobody spiked it. This is the level of paranoia I've achieved in approximately 6 hours. I pour 2 fingers, sit down at my desk, and start doing what I should have done months ago. Actually looking at the finances. Not just my finances, which are straightforward and documented and very much mine, but the whole financial ecosystem of everyone in my immediate orbit who might have a reason to want me dead before I update my estate planning. Let me break this down because once I start pulling threads, the whole thing unravels like a cheap sweater from a store that's definitely going out of business, which coincidentally is a pretty good metaphor for Britney's boutique. My deal just closed. $20 million in escrow. The money hit my account last Tuesday. I haven't distributed anything yet because I'm not an idiot, and I wanted to talk to financial advisors and tax attorneys and people who know what they're doing before I start moving that kind of money around. The patent is mine legally, solely, completely. I built it. I developed it. I filed it. My name is on every document. Brittany is not on the LLC. She's not on the patent. She's not on anything related to my actual business because we have a prenup signed 8 years ago before we got married because I was already working on the prototype and my lawyer said, protect your intellectual property. And I said, okay, because I'm capable of listening to professional advice. The prenup is pretty clear. What's mine is mine. What's hers is hers. And in the event of divorce, nobody gets to claim they're entitled to the other person's premarital assets or business ventures. It's not romantic, but neither is bankruptcy court. And I was 26% more naive 8 years ago, but still 26% smarter than the average person who gets married without any financial protection. So legally, Brittany has no claim to my patent money. Zero. Zip. Nada. In a divorce scenario, she'd get whatever we've accumulated together during the marriage. The house which we bought together, some joint savings which amounts to maybe $60,000, and possibly some kind of spousal support for a limited time because that's how California works. But she doesn't get the patent. She doesn't get the 20 million. She doesn't get the royalties that are going to keep coming in for the next decade at minimum, unless I'm dead. See, if I'm dead, everything changes. If I'm dead before I update my will, which I haven't done yet because the money just hit and I was planning to deal with it next week, then my current will from 3 years ago is still active. And that will, which I wrote back when I thought my wife actually loved me and wasn't auditioning for the role of Black Widow in a true crime documentary, leaves everything to Brittany. Everything. The house, the money, the patent rights, the royalties, the whole enchilada. Because that's what you do when you're married, and you think you're going to grow old together and maybe retire to some place with a beach and good health care. You make your spouse the beneficiary. You trust them. You assume they want you alive more than they want you dead and wealthy. But now I'm looking at Brittany's boutique, Lux Theory. And let me tell you about this business on Instagram. It's thriving. Constant posts about sold-out items and exclusive drops. And thank you to our amazing clients. Lots of photos of Brittany in designer outfits standing in front of brick walls looking like she's about to revolutionize the fashion industry. Lots of engagement from accounts that I'm 90% sure are bots, because nobody really uses that many flame emojis, unironically. But in QuickBooks, and yes, I have access to the business financials, because I'm technically a silent partner, which means I gave her startup money 4 years ago and occasionally check to make sure we're not hemorrhaging cash. The real story is very different. The boutique is bleeding money. Not like a small cut, like a severed artery. Monthly losses averaging $12,000. Revenue is inconsistent at best. Expenses include rent on a retail space that's way too expensive, inventory that doesn't move, a social media manager who charges $3,000 a month to post pictures, and something called brand development consulting that costs $5,000 monthly and, as far as I can tell, involves a woman named Sage telling Brittany that her energy needs to be more aligned with abundance. The boutique is a vanity project that's become a financial black hole. And every month, I've been covering the losses because that's what you do when you're married to someone who has a dream and you have the money to fund it. But the deal was always that once the boutique became profitable, Brittany would pay back the startup money and we'd consider the loan settled. Except, it's never become profitable. Not even close. And now I'm looking at 4 years of losses that total somewhere north of $300,000, which is a lot of money to spend on what is essentially an expensive hobby that requires a storefront. Then there's Lorraine. Oh, Lorraine. I pull up what I can find about her financial situation, which isn't everything because she's not my wife and I don't have direct access to her accounts, but I know enough from conversations and things Brittany has mentioned, and that one time Lorraine got drunk at Thanksgiving and started complaining about interest rates. Lorraine has a condo. Sounds nice, right? Except she has 2 mortgages on it. Not a mortgage and a home equity line of credit. 2 full mortgages, which means at some point she refinanced, pulled out cash, spent that cash, and then took out another loan using the same property. The condo is underwater. She owes more than it's worth, and she's making payments on both loans. Barely. From what I understand, she also has a Mercedes. The S-Class. Fully loaded, gorgeous car. Costs about $900 a month for the payment plus insurance plus premium gas because Lorraine doesn't do regular unleaded. And then there are the credit cards. Multiple credit cards. I don't know the exact balances, but Brittany mentioned once that her mom was consolidating debt, which is code for transferring balances between cards and hoping nobody notices that the problem is getting worse, not better. And here's my favorite part. Spa financing. I didn't even know this was a thing. Apparently, you can finance cosmetic procedures and spa treatments and facials and whatever else wealthy women do to avoid looking like they're aging naturally. Lorraine has a payment plan for her face. For her actual face, this is money borrowed to maintain an appearance that suggests she has money, which she doesn't, which is why she needs to borrow money, which creates this beautiful circular logic that ends with her daughter trying to poison me. And then there's Andre. Andre is Brittany's cousin. Sort of. Second cousin, maybe. The family tree is unclear, and I stopped trying to map it out after the third explanation that involved people I'd never met. Andre describes himself as an entrepreneur and a business consultant. But what Andre actually is, based on my observations and some very careful questions I've asked over the years, is a loan shark with business cards and a LinkedIn profile. He loans money to people in the family when they can't get traditional loans because their credit is destroyed or they're already maxed out everywhere else. He charges interest rates that would make a payday loan company blush. And according to a conversation I overheard 6 months ago when Brittany thought I was in the garage, Andre is currently helping the family with some temporary bridge capital, which is fancy language for loaning money that needs to be paid back with substantial interest or else. So, let me paint you the full picture here because once I see it all laid out in front of me, it's so obvious I can't believe I missed it. Brittany's boutique is failing. Lorraine is drowning in debt. Andre is circling like a shark waiting to collect. And then I sell my patent for $20 million. $20 million that legally belongs to me alone because of the prenup. $20 million that Brittany can't touch in a divorce, but could absolutely access if I died before updating my will. And suddenly, from their perspective, I'm not Marcus the husband or Marcus the son-in-law. I'm Marcus the solution. I'm Marcus, the walking ATM machine that just needs to stop walking so they can make a withdrawal. If I die tragically, heart attack, accidental poisoning, stroke, whatever story they want to sell, Brittany becomes the grieving widow. She inherits everything. The house, the cash, the patent rights, the royalty stream. She pays off her boutique debt, her mother's mortgages, Andre's loans. She's suddenly solvent and sympathetic. She gets sympathy, casseroles and GoFundMe donations, and people saying she's so strong, and at least he left her well taken care of. She gets to play the role of the woman who lost her husband right when their life together was about to get good, and people eat that story up. Nobody suspects the widow. Nobody investigates the wife who cries at the funeral and talks about how much she loved him and how unfair life is. This wasn't rage. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't even personal, really. This was accounting. This was a spreadsheet analysis that determined I was worth more dead than alive. I was an asset that needed to be liquidated. And the fact that I'm sitting here in my office alive, drinking bourbon from a bottle I had to safety check like I'm the president's food taster, means that their accounting was wrong. They miscalculated. They didn't factor in the possibility that I'd notice, that I'd see, that I'd swap the glasses and save my own life while accidentally saving Lorraine in the process. Which is ironic because I'm pretty sure Lorraine was in on this plan, given how fast she's accumulated debt and how convenient my death would be for her financial situation. 2. I finish my bourbon. I pour another one. Still from the sealed bottle. Still on camera. And I start making a list. Not a revenge list. Not an angry list. A strategic list. A documentation list. Because here is what I know about problems. You can't solve them by yelling or crying or confronting people who are desperate enough to kill you. You solve them by being smarter, more prepared, more thorough. You solve them by building a case so solid that when everything comes out, nobody can deny it, nobody can spin it, nobody can say it was a misunderstanding or you're being paranoid. I'm going to need my lawyer. I'm going to need financial records. I'm going to need to move my assets into accounts and trusts that Brittany can't touch, even if I die tomorrow. I'm going to need security cameras. I'm going to need witness statements. I'm going to need that toxicology report on Lorraine. I'm going to need everything documented and time-stamped and notarized and legally airtight, because I'm not just protecting my money, I'm protecting my life. And unlike my wife, I'm not willing to kill for $20 million. But I am absolutely willing to use every legal tool available to make sure the person who tried to kill me for $20 million spends the next 2 decades in a prison cell, thinking about how she's smart, thorough, and she doesn't let people manipulate her with tears and family drama. When she calls, and she will call probably in the next day or two, you tell her everything. The champagne, the swap, the hospital, the golden birch ambush, all of it. You give her copies of everything we're creating. The cognitive assessment, the trust documents, the power of attorney, the fraud alerts. You make her job as easy as possible, because the easier you make it for her to build a case, the faster Brittany ends up in handcuffs. I leave Regina's office with a folder full of documents to review. A 2 p.m. appointment with Dr. Chin, and for the first time since the party, a sense that I'm not just reacting to attacks, but actually building a defense. No, not a defense, an offense. Because defense is what you do when you're trying not to lose. Offense is what you do when you're planning to win. And I'm planning to win so decisively that Brittany won't just lose access to my money. She'll lose her freedom, her reputation, and any chance of ever trying this with someone else. I get to Dr. Chin's office at 1:45 because I'm the kind of person who shows up early to things, which is probably why I'm successful and Brittany is trying to murder me for money instead of just earning her own. The office is in a medical building near the hospital. All beige walls and generic landscape paintings and magazines from 6 months ago. Dr. Chin himself is maybe 60, an Asian guy with glasses and a calm demeanor that makes you feel like he's seen every kind of cognitive problem imaginable, and yours, whatever it is, doesn't surprise him. The assessment is exhausting in a way I didn't expect. It's not physically hard, but mentally, it's like running a marathon, while someone asks you to solve math problems. Memory tests where he gives me lists of words and asks me to repeat them back immediately, then again 5 minutes later, then again 20 minutes later. Problem-solving exercises, where I have to figure out patterns and sequences of numbers or shapes. Questions about current events, recent presidents, basic geography. Tasks where I have to draw a clock showing a specific time, copy complex figures, explain the meaning of proverbs. He asks me to count backward from 100 by sevens, which sounds easy until you're doing it out loud, and your brain keeps wanting to take shortcuts. 3 hours later, I'm done. Dr. Chin reviews his notes, types something into his computer, and then looks at me over his glasses. Mr. Hale, I'm going to be very direct with you. Based on this assessment, you show no signs of cognitive impairment, dementia, or any condition that would prevent you from managing your own affairs. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning is sound. Your decision-making capacity is intact. If someone is trying to have you declared incompetent, they're going to have a very hard time doing that with this evaluation on record. He prints out a report 10 pages long, full of scores and analysis, and medical terminology, and signs it with a flourish. I'll have the notarized version sent to your attorney by end of business today. I thank him, shake his hand, and walk out of that office feeling like I just passed the most important test of my life because I did. I just proved in legally binding medical terms that I'm not crazy. I'm not confused. I'm not declining. I'm a fully functional adult who's being targeted by people who want my money. And now I have documentation that says exactly that. I text Regina. Assessment done. He says I'm competent. Report coming today. She texts back immediately. Perfect. Come by tomorrow at 9. We'll sign the trusts. Then we go to war. I drive home smiling because for the first time since I watched my wife poison my champagne, I feel like I'm not the one in danger anymore. She is. Here's the thing about catching criminals. You can't just wait for them to confess. You have to create situations where they incriminate themselves, where their own greed and desperation lead them directly into a trap they don't see until it's already closed around their ankles. This is basically what phishing is, except instead of using worms, you use fake bank accounts. And instead of catching bass, you catch your wife committing felony fraud. Same principle, different application. I'm sitting in my office at 8 a.m. the next morning with Regina on a video call, and she's walking me through what she's calling the honeypot strategy, which sounds like something from a spy movie, but is actually just a very elegant way to get Brittany to commit crimes on camera while thinking she's being clever. We need her to actually attempt to access your money, Regina explains. And she's got that look on her face that lawyers get when they're about to do something technically legal, but definitely morally questionable. Right now, we have suspicion. We have the poisoning, which is good, but that's going to be hard to prove was intentional unless we get a confession or find the vial with her fingerprints. What we need is a clear, documented, undeniable fraud attempt that shows intent to steal your assets. Something where her fingerprints, literal or digital, are all over it. So, here's what we do. I go to a bank I don't normally use, a branch of Pacific Western that's across town, nowhere near my usual Wells Fargo. I walk in, I tell them I want to open a new checking account, and I deposit exactly $100. That's it, $100. The account comes with a debit card, online banking access, the full setup. To anyone looking at the paperwork, it appears to be a legitimate, active account. It's just that instead of containing $20 million, it contains enough money to buy a decent dinner for two if you skip dessert. Meanwhile, Regina drafts what she calls a durable power of attorney document. It looks official. It looks comprehensive. It's got all the right legal language, the proper formatting, the stamps and seals and signatures that make it appear like it's giving someone, specifically whoever I designate, broad authority over my financial affairs. Except here's the beautiful part. It doesn't. The language is very carefully crafted to only give access to this one specific checking account at Pacific Western, account number ending in 7734, and nothing else. It specifically forbids any movement of securities, property, patents, royalties, or any other assets. It auto-expires in 90 days, and, buried in Section 12, subsection F, in language that requires a law degree to fully parse, it says that any attempt to exceed the authority granted in this document constitutes fraud and nullifies the entire agreement. It's bait, Regina says, and she sounds genuinely pleased with herself. Anyone who reads this carefully will see it's limited. But anyone who's desperate and greedy and just looking for access to your accounts, they'll skip the fine print. They'll assume it's broader than it is. And when they try to move money from your actual accounts, the ones not mentioned in this document, we've got them on fraud. Clear, documented, prosecutable fraud. We also create a fake consolidated portfolio summary that makes it look like I've got all my accounts listed in one convenient document. Checking accounts, savings accounts, brokerage accounts, all with account numbers and approximate balances, except the numbers are fake. The accounts are mostly fake. The only real one is the $100 checking account. Everything else is either an account that doesn't exist or an account that's already been locked down with fraud alerts so aggressive that even I would have trouble accessing it without going through 3 levels of verification. And then we make a temporary login sheet with usernames and passwords for what appears to be access to my online brokerage portal. Except the portal isn't real. It's a honeypot website that Regina's IT guy built in about 4 hours. Looks exactly like the real brokerage site. Same layout, same logos. But it's actually just logging every login attempt, every breathing. That got another flicker of amusement. She stood, pacing lightly, absorbing the house like it was a crime scene, which technically it was. You understand? She said finally. If this is what it looks like, it's going to be ugly. Attempted homicide, financial fraud, elder coercion, conspiracy. People don't like going down for that quietly. I leaned back, hands behind my head. Yeah, but they also don't like getting caught trying to make a loved one their early retirement plan. Reyes looked at me for a beat, then asked, "You still living with her?" "Hell no," I said. "She's been bouncing between her boutique and her mother's condo, probably practicing her grieving widow face in the mirror." Reyes scribbled that down, then said, "Okay, you're not under arrest, obviously, but I need you to understand, you're a witness now, a high-value one. That means you don't eat out, don't drink what you didn't open, don't trust anyone who knocks on your door unless they're wearing a badge or holding a subpoena. Got it?" "Got it," I said, though my brain was still processing the phrase high-value witness. She continued, "We'll need the champagne bottle analyzed. We'll get a search warrant for her phone, her mother's, and anyone connected to that Golden Birch scheme. You'll be looped in before we move. Until then, stay predictable. Don't tip her off. Detective," I said slowly. "She tried to kill me at my own party. I think she's past the point of caring about subtlety." Reyes didn't disagree. She collected the evidence, carefully tucked everything into labeled bags, and before she left, she said something that somehow felt colder than the freezer. "Mr. Hale, from this point forward, don't drink or eat anything you didn't seal or plate yourself. Not from your wife, not from family, not from restaurants, not even a mint at church." I stared. "Not even a mint?" She raised an eyebrow. "You'd be surprised how many people get creative when the inheritance clock starts ticking." I exhaled and nodded. "So, I'm basically living like a paranoid monk now." "No," she said. "Heading for the door?" "You're living." Then she paused at the threshold, turned back, and added, "Oh, and Marcus, good instincts on swapping that glass. Most people wouldn't have noticed the dropper." I shrugged. "Yeah, well, most people don't have a wife who treats cocktails like chemistry class." She actually laughed that time. "A quick, dry laugh that said, "You're insane, but I respect it." After she left, the silence felt thick. The hum of the fridge sounded like tension. I sat down, staring at the sealed bottles on the counter, and realized something. I've been living in autopilot for years, pretending stability was love, that keeping quiet was peace. But when a detective tells you to treat your own house like a potential crime scene, the marriage isn't broken. It's buried. I texted Regina. "We're in motion." "Reyes is solid," she replied instantly. "Good. Play dumb. They'll trip themselves." I turned off my phone, stared at my reflection in the dark window, and said to no one, "Well, honey, guess it's your turn to drink from the chipped glass." Then I locked every door, checked every camera feed, and made a mental note to start drinking my coffee black because cream suddenly felt like a luxury I couldn't trust. You ever walk into a room knowing everyone else in it showed up to rob you blind, but you still smile like you're about to present the winning PowerPoint at a TED Talk? That was me strutting into the bank that morning. Tailored suit, calm pulse, heart rate steady enough to fake sainthood. Brittany sat at the glass conference table, all fake pearls and real delusion, flanked by her wannabe lawyer, loan shark Andre, and some chipper woman from Golden Birch, who looked like she sold timeshares to the elderly. "Baby," Brittany cooed. "This is just so we can take care of you." Translation: "Sign here so I can own your soul and Venmo your assets to my new boyfriend." The folder in front of me had more pages than the Bible and smelled like fraud. But I smiled, nodded, and signed Regina's decoy. The one that only gave her access to a checking account holding 100 sad little dollars. Andre leaned forward like he just witnessed destiny. Brittany looked like she could taste victory, and the Golden Birch rep was already mentally redecorating my suite. Then Brittany gave the signal. "We'll move $400,000 for the entry fee," she said, all sweet and confident. The branch manager, God bless his poker face, typed something, looked at the screen, and chirped, "Perfect. That'll come from account ending in 4821, balance, $100. Even the silence that followed was art. You could hear the sound of Brittany's brain buffering. Her fake smile faltered so hard I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then came the tap on the glass door. Detective Reyes, sharp as caffeine, stepping in like a walking verdict. Behind her, the bank's fraud investigator, all clipboard and calm doom. "Mrs. Hale," Reyes said, voice crisp enough to cut marble. "Thank you for demonstrating intent in a recorded financial institution. That saves us so much paperwork." Her lawyer tried to recover with, "Your Honor, my client was under emotional stress," but the judge shut that down like a bouncer. At closing time, I stood, buttoned my jacket, and gave my statement. Not dramatic, not tearful, just truth in its cleanest, sharpest form. "I'm not confused," I said. "I'm not declining. I'm just inconvenient to people who treat loyalty like an ATM. I swear." The judge actually nodded. Then came the verdict. Bail revoked. No contact order. Charges upgraded from attempted murder to premeditated with financial intent. I didn't cheer, didn't smirk, just exhaled. Lorraine tried her best act in the hallway, crying about how I humiliated her by letting her drink the wrong glass. "Lorraine," I said, "I literally saved your life." "You're welcome." Even Tyler winced. "Dad," he whispered. That was cold. "No, son," I told him. That was documented. We drove home in silence, the kind that feels like peace after a storm. My neighbor brought banana bread. Real care, not the weaponized kind. And for once, I accepted it without scanning the ingredients. That night, I poured a drink from a freshly sealed bottle, cracked it open in front of my kitchen camera like a ritual, and raised my glass to the quiet, to poisoners with bad timing, to paperwork, to survival. I took a long sip, tasted freedom, and smiled because they thought a signature could bury me. But in the end, signatures were exactly what buried them.